church, and what made you want to do that?
How do I help the church, and what made me want to do that? Well, I probably most wanted to help the church because I grew up in a church just like you guys, and I went to church and Sunday school, and it just became important for me. So, what kind of things do I do in the church? Well, let's see. And you gals have gone to church here for quite a while. You have seen some. There's something that I do kind of routinely. Not every Sunday. It depends on if we happen to have visitors.
Mugging.
What would that be that I do?
Mugging.
Mugging. Wait, what does mugging usually entail? Wait a minute, I'm supposed to be answering the questions, aren't I? So when I mug people, I think it's nice that we greet people, make them feel welcome when they come to our church, especially the first time, that they feel like we're friendly and we're glad to have them here, and we hope they come back and visit again. And if there are kids in the family, we sure want to invite them to come to Sunday school. And that's right. And for the young members of the family, we pass out pencils. But then we mug them, and I always say, my name's Ron Armintrout, and your name is? Kelsey. Well, Kelsey, we're glad you're with us today. And we have a kind of a tradition here. I'm going to give you this mug. Pretend. And you can tell people that you were mugged by the Riverton Methodist Church. And then everybody kind of snickers. So that's one thing I do. Are there other things, other questions, or do you have more questions?
Well, we have been talking about all the things that have to happen in order for there to be a church here, for there to be a building here and be people here on Sunday morning.
All right.
So how else do you help with that? Mugging is very important.
Well, one of the other things I do is I have served on the trustees, and the trustees are just one committee. There's a lot of committees in the church, but the trustees, let's see how let's just say the rest of the church trust us to take care of the property. They trust us to make sure the yard gets mowed. They trust us to make sure the building's in good shape, that the roof doesn't leak, if it needs to be painted, if the carpet's bad, if we have to get the floors clean, if we have to do any remodeling, like you might be aware that we recently did the kitchen in the church basement. So the rest of the congregation entrust us to take care of that. So we're called the trustees.
Good.
So,
We've got 9 other questions, but that was the big one.
Okay.
For sure. So Kelsey has a few more, and then Tori has some.
How long have you been a member of this church, and did you go to church when you were a kid?
Well, I touched on a little bit of that earlier, but Mrs. Armintrout and I moved to Riverton 34 years ago, and we started to go into church here shortly thereafter. So we've been attending church about 34 years here. What was my history prior to that? Well, when I grew up, my mom and dad were members of a Lutheran church in a community called Mason City. And we went to church every Sunday, and I went to Sunday school every Sunday morning. And when Bible school time came, I went to Bible school every year. And did all those kind of things that you guys are doing right now. And I did them, all that stuff, all the way through high school.
Okay, move on to your next question then, Kelsey.
Who do you live with?
Who do I live with? Well, 34 years ago when I moved here with just one person. And that was my wife, Cheryl Armintrout, or commonly known in the Riverton Community School District as Mrs. Armintrout, because she taught
Music.
where?
Riverton Elementary School.
Elementary school, that's exactly right. So I moved here with Mrs. Armintrout, and excuse me.
You moved here with 3 people.
I moved here with 3 people. No? Or was Mike born here?
Yes, Mike was already born by the time you moved here.
Carly was already with us. We already had a little baby girl when we moved here.
You had a little baby boy too when you moved here.
And we had a little baby boy too when we moved here. I moved here with 3 people. My whole family was together when I moved here. And so I moved here with Carly, who was 2, and
3.
Mike, who was a few months old, and
And who do you live with now?
now I live with Mrs. Armintrout because Carly went off to college and she got a job, and Mike went off to college and he got a job, and Carly has my first grandchild, Avit, and many of you know of Avit. Mike and his wife Heather are going to be having a little girl in August, so there'll be another member of our family. But to answer your question, I live with Mrs. Armintrout.
Okay, more questions. Shorter answers, Mr. Armintrout.
Yes, we have a lot.
Okay,
Speaking, just not much time.
I understand.
What do you do for a living?
I sell automotive supplies.
Do you have any pets?
Pardon?
Do you have any pets?
Pets? No. I'm trying
Tori.
to gain some ground here.
Okay, Tori has 5 questions.
Yes, Miss Scales.
Interest and hobbies.
What are my interests and hobbies?
You can talk for a while on
At
this
the
one.
moment, I love chasing my grandson. I've always enjoyed doing woodworking kind of stuff and home fix-up kind of things around the house. I do like some sports, not all sports, but I was never a great participant in them, but I do like to watch sports too.
What other helpful things do you do outside of the church?
Helpful things outside of the church. Oh man, I'm calling my family here. My family's been really involved in the arts world over the years, doing musicals and things like that. And I've always helped and assisted with those kind of things at the theaters, whether it was the theater center in downtown Springfield, or the opera, or if it's the Riverton Middle School or the Riverton High School. Would help. Some of those things that I like to do at home, like fixing things and working on stuff, I could do some of that at those shows too, and help them build sets and things. I like to do that.
Have you ever been a Sunday school teacher?
I have been a Sunday school teacher. I was a Sunday school teacher, a bunch of years ago, and taught, must have been 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade, I don't know. Mrs. Armintrout and I did, yes.
Did you go to Sunday school when you were a kid?
I did go to Sunday school when I was a kid. Yes, I did.
How did you know you wanted to be part of this church?
How did I know I wanted to be part of this church? Well, we were already belonged to a Methodist church before we moved here. And we were married in the Methodist church, so I knew we were going to be Methodist. So let's go down to that brick building down there. When we moved here, that's the Methodist church. We should go there, check that place out, see what it's like, because they are Methodists like we are. So we did that, and then those people were all very welcoming, made us feel comfortable here, and so that's why we stayed, and that's why I mug people, because I want people to feel comfortable.
Why do you think it's important to do things for your church?
Because when you join a church, and someone in the crowd will probably have to help me, when you join the church, there's some things you say you're going to do. You're going to give of your time, of your talents.
Prayer.
You're going to give a prayer. I was thinking there was 4 items.
Gifts and service, because it should be your money.
You are giving to. So all of those things are important.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Armintrout?
Does Keaton what's Keaton know about Mr.? What do you know about me? Oh, I got a question right here in the front row.
Oh, yes, Kelsey?
Have you ever played an instrument like your family does?
Have I ever told? No, tell me what you know the rest of my family, and you find them very musical, don't you?
Yes.
And your question is, see, now, you might notice she didn't ask me about singing, because she's heard me sing, and she's very aware that I'm not capable. But she does. Maybe he plays an instrument or something. I did play a tenor saxophone. It's a saxophone that curls down here. I played the tenor saxophone from the time I was in 4th grade